If you asked anyone on my street about my family, they'd probably say we had it all figured out. Mom and Dad with their steady jobs, me and my two younger siblings doing well in school, a nice house with a white picket fence, the whole American dream, right? That's what it looked like from the outside. But inside, everything was quietly falling apart. It started when Dad lost his job at the factory. It wasn't just any job. It was the kind of work that paid the bills, kept food on the table, and gave us that little bit of security that most families take for granted. When he got that pink slip, something inside our home changed. Dad tried to hide it at first, but the worry was in his eyes. Mom did her best to keep us calm, but I could tell she was working 2 part-time jobs just to make sure we had enough. The house that once echoed with laughter started feeling heavy, like we were carrying the weight of the world inside those walls. Bills piled up on the kitchen counter, the fridge wasn't as full, and sometimes Mom would cry when she thought no one was looking. My siblings and I stopped asking for new clothes or school trips. We knew better. What broke me the most was how quiet everything became. The arguments were replaced by silence, and the hugs disappeared. It was like the happy family we once were was trapped behind a glass wall we couldn't break through. I felt like I was watching from the outside, powerless to fix what was happening. But even when everything seemed to be falling apart, I remember moments when we tried to hold on to who we were. Dad would still smile on the weekends, taking us to the park or teaching us how to ride bikes, like he was saying, "This isn't the end." Mom made pancakes on Sunday mornings, even if the syrup was cheaper and the batter didn't rise as well. Those little acts were our way of fighting back against the storm. Looking back now, I realized that perfect picture was never really about the house or the paycheck. It was about us, how we tried to keep love alive even when everything else was breaking down. And that's when I started to understand something important. Family isn't about never falling apart. It's about what you do when you do. There's a moment when money stops being just numbers on a paycheck or a credit card balance and starts feeling like a ticking clock, counting down to something you dread but can't avoid. For us, that moment came slowly but hit hard. After Dad lost his job, things got tight fast. Mom's 2 part-time gigs barely covered rent and utilities, and the bills kept piling up like a mountain we couldn't climb. I remember sitting at the kitchen table one night, watching Mom sort through the mail. She pulled out a past due notice for the electricity bill and sighed. A sound I'd never heard before. It wasn't just tired, it was exhaustion from fighting a losing battle. We started cutting back on everything. No more takeout dinners, no new clothes for birthdays. Even the smallest treats disappeared. But the hardest part was the silence around the dinner table. Instead of chatting about school or plans for the weekend, we tiptoed around the unspoken truth. We were running out of money, and soon we might lose our home. The day the landlord came by with that eviction notice felt like the ground fell out from under us. I remember watching Mom's face pale, Dad's hands clenching into fists, and my little brother's confused eyes searching for answers no one could give. That house had been our safe place, the place where we celebrated holidays, where I did my homework, where my childhood lived. The thought of leaving it felt like losing a piece of myself. But we didn't have a choice. We packed what we could carry, loaded the car, and headed to Grandma's house. A small place that suddenly felt like a lifeboat in a storm. It wasn't the life we'd imagined, but it was shelter, and it was family. Moving in with Grandma was a shock to all of us. The rooms were smaller, the walls filled with memories of her own struggles and joys. At first, it felt like our dreams had been put on hold, swallowed up by uncertainty. But living close to Grandma, hearing her stories of resilience and feeling her warmth reminded us that a home isn't just a building, it's the people inside. That time taught me that money doesn't define who you are or how strong your family can be. It's easy to feel broken when the bills pile up and the future looks unclear. But sometimes the hardest moments are the ones that show you how much you really have and what you're really made of. When we moved into Grandma's house, it felt like stepping into a completely different world, smaller, quieter, but somehow filled with a kind of warmth we hadn't felt in a while. Our big house with the yard was gone, replaced by a cozy, cramped place that smelled like old books and home-cooked meals. It wasn't what we were used to, but it was exactly what we needed. Grandma's house wasn't perfect. The floors creaked, the walls had cracks, and the rooms were so close together that sometimes it felt like we were bumping into each other, just trying to find some space. But what it lacked in size, it made up for in love. Grandma had a way of making even the smallest things feel special. A smile, a warm meal, a story from her past that reminded us we weren't the first to face hard times. At first, I was embarrassed to have friends over or to talk about where we were living. I felt like I'd let everyone down. But Grandma never made me feel that way. She told me that life throws curveballs, but what mattered most was how you caught them. She reminded me that families are made stronger when they lean on each other, not apart. Living with Grandma meant old routines, too. Saturday mornings were for pancakes and stories about when she was a little girl. Evenings were spent around the kitchen table, not just eating, but really talking about hopes, fears, and the future we wanted to build. For the first time in months, I felt like we were more than just surviving. We were starting to heal. Dad found a little job helping neighbors with yard work, and even though it didn't pay much, it was a start. Mom started taking classes at the community college nearby. And me? I started believing again that maybe things could get better. The walls of Grandma's house held more than just our memories. They held resilience, hope, the quiet strength of a woman who had seen tough days but never gave up, and through her we found strength too. Moving in with Grandma wasn't the end of our story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where family wasn't about having everything perfect, but about having each other no matter what. Watching my dad rebuild his life after losing his job was one of the most important lessons I ever learned. It wasn't easy for him, or for any of us, but his determination showed me what it really means to work hard and never give up. After moving in with Grandma, Dad didn't sit around feeling sorry for himself. Instead, he woke up early every morning, put on his old work boots, and started looking for whatever jobs he could find. Some days it was helping neighbors mow their lawns. Other days it was cleaning up construction sites or fixing things around Grandma's house. None of it paid much, but Dad never complained. He just kept going. I remember one afternoon when I asked him if he was tired. He smiled and said, "Son, hard work might wear you out, but it never wears you down." Those words stuck with me. They were like a promise that no matter how hard life gets, if you keep showing up and putting in the effort, you'll get through it. Dad's example taught me about patience, too. Sometimes he'd work for days without hearing about a new job, and I could see the frustration in his eyes. But he never gave up hope. He said rebuilding takes time, like planting a tree and waiting for it to grow strong enough to weather the storms. What struck me most was how his hard work wasn't just about money. It was about pride and purpose. He wanted us to know that no matter what life throws at us, we can face it head on. That showing up day after day and doing your best is what really builds a future. Mom was incredible too. Between her jobs and going back to school, she balanced so much that it amazed me. I saw her late at night, studying at the kitchen table while we all tried to be quiet so she could focus. Her determination to better herself, for all of us, was inspiring. Together, Mom and Dad's hard work created a foundation for all of us. They didn't just work to pay the bills. They worked to teach us resilience, to show us how to keep faith in ourselves when life feels impossible. That time in our lives wasn't easy, but it taught me something I still carry with me, that success isn't about never falling. It's about getting up again, every single time, and working harder than before. One of the most powerful things I witnessed during those hard years was my mom deciding to chase her own dream, even when everything else seemed to be falling apart. It wasn't just about getting a better job or making more money. It was about showing us that it's never too late to change your path and follow what truly matters. Mom had put her own goals on hold for years to keep our family afloat. She worked 2 part-time jobs, took care of us, and kept the house running, but deep down, I could see she was tired, not just physically, but in spirit. One night, I overheard her talking on the phone, nervous but hopeful, about signing up for community college classes. I didn't say anything at first, but inside I felt a spark of hope. When she told us she was going back to school, I could tell some of us were a little surprised. How would she balance everything? How would we manage? But Mom was determined. She said it wasn't just for her, it was for all of us. She wanted to show us that dreams don't have expiration dates. That decision changed the whole atmosphere at home. Suddenly, there was a new kind of energy. Mom started waking up earlier to study before work, carrying textbooks in her bag everywhere she went. She was tired, sure, but proud, and that pride rubbed off on all of us. Her courage inspired me and my siblings. If Mom could find the strength to start over and chase something new, then maybe we could too. We all started thinking bigger, dreaming differently. School became more than just a chore. It became a way to build a future. Conversations at the dinner table shifted from worries about money to plans for what could be. Mom's journey wasn't without struggles. There were late nights, stress, and moments when she doubted herself. But she kept going, one step at a time. She reminded me that finding new dreams isn't about having everything figured out at once. It's about being brave enough to take the first step, no matter how uncertain it feels. Looking back, I realized that moment was a turning point for our whole family. We learned that setbacks don't have to be the end. They can be the beginning of something new. And that strength isn't just about surviving hard times, but about growing and reaching for what you want, even when it seems impossible. Thanks to Mom, I learned that dreams don't have an age limit, and sometimes the most important dreams are the ones you find when you least expect them. In the middle of all the chaos, the job losses, moving houses, and the constant struggle to get by, it was the small, everyday moments that held us together. Those moments became our rituals, little anchors that reminded us who we were as a family and gave us something to hold on to. One of the most important rituals was Sunday dinners. No matter how tired Mom and Dad were or how tight the money was, They made sure we sat down together at the same time every Sunday. It didn't matter if the meal was simple, sometimes just pasta with a little sauce, or whatever vegetables were on sale. What mattered was that we were all there, sharing the same space, talking and laughing. It was our way of saying we're still here, still together. Those dinners weren't always easy. Sometimes the conversations got heavy. We talked about our worries, our hopes, the things we missed from before. But those honest talks made us stronger. They taught us that family isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about showing up, being present, and facing life's challenges together. Another ritual that helped was movie nights. We'd pile on the couch with blankets and popcorn, trying to forget the hard days just for a little while. Those nights gave us laughter and comfort when we needed it most. It was like pressing pause on the tough stuff and reminding ourselves we were still a family, imperfect but full of love. Even small routines like helping Grandma bake cookies or walking the dog together after dinner became moments of connection. In those times, I realized family rituals are more than just habits. They're the glue that keeps people together through thick and thin. These rituals didn't fix our problems overnight, but they gave us a sense of normalcy, a feeling that even when life was unpredictable, some things stayed the same. They gave us hope and a reminder that no matter what, we had each other. Looking back, I see now how powerful those rituals were. They were the quiet heroes in our story, helping us heal, rebuild, and move forward. In the hardest moments, it's often the simple things that mean the most. Now, when I think back on those years, it's hard to believe how far we've come. The family that once felt like it was breaking apart became stronger than ever. Not because life got easier, but because we learned how to face it together. Looking back, I realize those tough times taught us more than any easy day ever could. They taught us resilience, the kind of resilience that doesn't just help you survive, but helps you grow. We learned how to lean on each other, to find hope in the darkest moments, and to celebrate the small victories that built our future. I also learned that family isn't about having it all figured out or living up to some perfect standard. It's about love, commitment, and showing up, even when it's hard. It's about the messy, imperfect moments that make us human and the strength that comes from facing them together. We still have challenges. Life never stops throwing curveballs. But now, when things get tough, I remember where we came from. I remember those days of uncertainty, the nights at Grandma's house, and the hard work that slowly turned things around. And I know we can get through whatever comes next. Our story isn't unique. Many families face struggles, feel lost, or hit rock bottom. But what I want anyone listening to know is that those moments don't have to define you. You can find strength in unexpected places, in your family, in your dreams, and in your own heart. If there's one thing I want to leave you with, it's this. No matter how hard life gets, no matter how shattered things seem, keep holding on, keep working, keep dreaming, and keep loving, because that's where real strength lives. Not in what you have, but in who you are and who you're with. Thanks for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that even in the hardest times, family and hope can light the way forward.